Welcome to the Herd's official YouTube channel. Make sure to like and subscribe. Don't forget to check out the Colin Cowherd podcast, all of our NFL instant reactions, and more football content. My friend Nick Wright joining us live. He probably doesn't like that Colts pick.
Well,
probably doesn't love the Colts pick.
You're right, Colin. I don't like when you do bad things. Okay. I have so much respect for you that, yeah, you're right. I saw that. And you know what it reminded me of? And you talking about their roster and Daniel Jones. Herd hierarchy, 2024, week 3. Have you seen the Saints and Derek Carr start? 2-0. Alvin Kamara looks like young Alvin Kamara. Soft division. Look out for New Orleans. I don't know if they've won a game since then. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen to the Colts, but it feels very Saints have the best open to a season in franchise history-ish. I do want, and listen, the Chiefs right now don't deserve, if it's based purely on this season, leave them out of the top 10. That's fine. And I
had
think
them at
it's
11.
what you're
right.
And I think what you're saying is correct, which is if this were a team's most likely to win the Super Bowl ranking, they would be firmly in the top 10, but it's where they are right now, so I'm fine with that. I would like, if I may, to spend a moment on the Niners. Yeah. Because for you and I, it's really been a fun last 15 months watching the Niners. Because you know, folks like you and I were like, hey, Jimmy Garoppolo's fine, probably not the bus driver there. And folks are like, look at his winning percentage. And then he leaves there and he's a career backup. And then Brock Purdy comes in and we're like, yeah, look, Brock Purdy's fine, but he's not really the lead actor of the movie. Right. Folks are like, hey, he left the Super Bowl field with a lead. What do you give the man his respect? He deserves his $50 million. And then you and I are like, well, maybe if he didn't have all his weapons, he wouldn't be quite as good. And then last year he doesn't, and they win 5 games. And then this year, it's like, what if you replace Brock Purdy with a guy everyone agrees can't play? How would that guy look? And that guy is the best game he's played in 3 years. And now those same people are staring down the barrel of, am I going to have to make the argument that Mac Jones actually is great? Or am I going to have to fold my hand? And you know what they are looking at? Mac Jones, rookie year, Pro Bowler, 10 wins. Maybe it's just it took a while to ripen. So I think the Niners, Shanahan deserves a lot of credit for what he's done thus far this season. Can I ask you one Charger question?
Sure,
and then I'll give you your show back.
Yeah.
The thing I've liked the least about the Chiefs' start to their year is how much Patrick is running. He saves that for the playoffs. I don't love that he feels like he has to. Man, I feel like they are putting Herbert in jeopardy early and often, and I don't love that. And late last night, when the game is wrapped up, they call a quarterback-designed run. Like, I think he is playing the best ball of his life without question. I don't love them spending a first-round pick on a running back and Justin Herbert's leading them in rushing. I don't love that.
No, and I think they felt a receiver shy for 3, 4, 5 years. And Keenan Allen has been, but, Keenan's not going to play 17 weeks. He won't. He'll get banged up. So I just said this before in last hour. I don't know what Najee Harris and Hampton become, but it's got to be better than this. If you want to win the AFC, it's got to be better than this. I would say this. I started my show saying this. A couple years ago, I offered Baker to podcast at the Volume. And he said, no, but Colin and I are frenemies. We're all good. And so much of what I see with Ben Johnson and Caleb, which is 2 talented people that don't fit, Baker is perfect in Tampa because Cleveland was all Hugh Jackson and Greg Williams and the bitter Cleveland media. And he goes to sleepy Tampa. And right now, there is no argument. He's a top 7, 8, 9 quarterback in the league. And I think Tampa it's the perfect marriage, right? Like no pressure. The media is helpful. They're not bitter. What do you make of what you're watching?
All right. So a few things. One is maybe take another run at Baker with the pod now that I'm part of the volume team. Unlike you guys, Baker and I aren't frenemies. We're just actual friends. I'd even maybe be willing to do an extra pod a week if Bake Show's doing it with me, so we should talk about that. As far as your top 7 or 8, right, over the last 2 years, Colin, well, a year and 2 weeks, since the beginning of last season, he is top 3 or 4 in the NFL in everything. In yards, in touchdowns, in rating, in completion percentage. Right now, Colin, if you were to do an MVP list, he, Justin Herbert, and Lamar, in some order or another, are probably the top 3. And I think Tampa has a real shot at, and listen, I picked Tampa to go to the Super Bowl in large part because I thought they could have the #1 seed. I think Philly and Green Bay's divisions are so much tougher than what Baker's going to be dealing with. I think they could have an extraordinary season, and starting the year, 2 games on the road, 2 games trailing late, 2 games game-winning drives, that's pretty special. Now, to your point about Cleveland, I think Cleveland could have been perfect for him. And the fact, like, Cleveland, his ruggedness and trash talking and all of it should have fit Cleveland. But the Browns, in their infinite wisdom, saw a player they drafted #1 overall win a playoff game for the Cleveland Browns in year 3, then almost upset the Chiefs in Arrowhead to go to the AFC title game.
Yeah.
And a year later, because Odell's dad put out a mixtape of missed throws, they were like, we can do better. It's one of the biggest missteps any team has made in the most important position in decades. You drafted the kid #1 overall. He sets the rookie record for touchdown passes after you had gone 1-31 the 2 years before he got there. Year 3, he's winning a playoff game against Pittsburgh, and you're done with him. It was bananas what happened, and I'm so glad he is now establishing himself and now staring at this coming off season, one of those $55 million a year contracts, because at the moment, he's one of the 2 best bargains in the whole sport.
Yeah, and I was saying this morning, there's 10 2-0 teams and 10 0-2 teams, and most of the 0-2 teams are the teams that every April lead the draft. Take the Chiefs out, they'll make the playoffs.
Yeah.
They're going to be fine. I think they're fine. And I also think Houston's okay. They just can't run block, and C.J. Stroud's running for his life, so Colts look better, blah, blah, blah. But I do think there's a truth about the NFL with a hard cap that ownership matters, GMs matter. And I look at the Chicago Bears, and I said this yesterday, wonderful people get divorced and find their perfect mate. It doesn't mean they're bad people, but fit is important. And Ben Johnson is a timing structure coach, and Caleb is terrific in opening drives. And then he starts freelancing, and it doesn't look like it fits. It doesn't mean Caleb couldn't work with Andy Reid. But I watch this Chicago thing, and I'm like, guys, it's not the coaching, because on script, the 2 opening drives have been remarkable. But Caleb is just too talented. There's too much horsepower, to put him in a box. Nick, I don't think it works. I don't think Ben and Caleb works.
So here is my pushback on that. One is, and I saw your really great, and I say that sincerely, really great spot with Tom Brady last week, when you mentioned that your new kind of line of demarcation is Thanksgiving year 2, and that you've sped it up from where you were previously. Even by that kind of expedited process, we're not there yet with Caleb. We're certainly not there yet with Caleb and Ben, who have 2 games together. My other pushback to it would be Ben Johnson picked the Bears because of Caleb. So he must think that he obviously watched Caleb, knew who he was as a player, and said, yes, that's where I want to go. So I think you are being a little hasty in that regard, that this won't work. I do think work in progress is correct. I also must tell you, I feel personally a little silly dissecting Caleb Williams when right above his name on the bar, it says the Bears allowed 52 points to the Lions. I do think that probably was the bigger problem on Sunday than Caleb freelancing a little bit.
I said this, is that if I used an example of a young attorney goes to a law firm in your hometown of Kansas City. He's Ivy League. He's sharp. But it's an old law firm with established partners. And after about 3 years, he's like, guys, I'm not getting any cases. I'm going to go to another law firm. Everybody in the law firm would be like, totally get it. Even the partners totally get it. Yeah. When Jalen Brunson leaves the Mavericks, he's like, I need the ball in my hands, guys. I need shots. Yeah. Everybody's like, yeah, of course he does. Luka's the better player. But A.J. Brown plays Tennessee, the most run-centric team. Philadelphia, even more run-centric. He's a top 3 receiver, arguably. He's an NBA player that can't get any shots. But yet in the NFL, which is all about the shield and unity and follow the coach, it's like a guy can't ask for a trade. I would totally support A.J. Brown if he just said, guys, I love you. I got 5 catches for 30 yards. This is a terrible fit. Go throw to Devontae. Am I wrong on this?
No, and so a couple things. One is, and you should, I'll email it to if you want, because I hadn't heard you make this point. A.J. Brown told us as much days after the Super Bowl. He posted an Instagram photo talking about how, and then he wrote in the caption, and I'm paraphrasing, but about how the satisfaction of the Super Bowl lasted 2 days. And then he said, and again, I'm paraphrasing, but it's almost a direct quote, where I get my love for the game is demoralizing a defensive back, is showing my excellence. He told us that's who he is, and that's part of the reason he's become so great. That while winning is fun, what he plays for is, dominating his matchup. Yeah. And I happen to think that if CeeDee Lamb catches a ball, and if Travis Kelce catches a ball, and the Eagles, instead of being 2-0, are either 0-2 or even 1-1, this is already a huge story in Philadelphia. Because the fact of the matter is, their passing game, which remember, last year when they were already on a 9-game winning streak, A.J. Brown, after the Carolina game, said, we need to improve on passing. That then led to, the Jalen's big game against the Steelers, A.J. reading on the sideline, all of it, the whole thing. They were in the midst of, they hadn't lost in months. He was frustrated. Now he's getting less targets, less opportunity at any point in his career because they haven't lost. I think it is at, a simmer. It will absolutely be at a full boil if they play this style on Sunday and the Rams beat them. And what I do think is noteworthy is, unlike last year when Saquon was en route to 2,000 yards and they were blowing people out, the Eagles deserve credit for getting those wins, but it's not as if A.J. said, hey, we can be better on offense, he would be wrong. Their offense their best offensive play has been Jalen Hurts scrambles and the tush push where the entire team lines up off sides and the guards false start, but the NFL allows it. Like, they have not been prolific right now, and I wouldn't mind if A.J. or blame A.J. if you were frustrated.
Yeah, finally, I said this yesterday, Joe Burrow, he gets hurt a lot. And you can blame the ownership and the O-line, but Justin Fields gets hurt a lot. And Justin Fields puts himself in harm's way. Now, Josh Allen can get away with it, but I watched Big Ben and Cam Newton, huge men, 6'5", 260. I watched them age overnight. Why? They took shots. And I watched Joe Burrow. It's like, Joe, you've got a normal frame. It's a 6'2.5-ish, 225.
Man.
I'm just saying, it is also incumbent. I watched Eli Manning literally drop, throw it away, pre-snap reads, get out of hits. Isn't some of this on
correct?
Isn't some of it on Burrow?
Yeah, so this is tricky because, listen, it's primarily on the Bengals. That offensive line's been bad for 5 years.
Forever.
But Burrow is it's so interesting you said Big Ben, because I evoked him in this same discussion yesterday, but for a slightly different reason. Last year, right, take the Chiefs with Patrick. The offensive line is a mess, and Patrick begrudgingly is like, okay, I guess it's going to be bang, 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 out, dink and dunk, and, I'm going to get rid of the ball.
Yeah.
Burrow is so intent and so excellent at what I called yesterday big game hunting that he is in week 1 and in week 2 before the injury, he was getting the snot kicked out of him, Colin, and it wasn't like immediate pressure. It was he could have checked it down. He could have thrown it away. He's trying to hunt the big play, which, he had 5,000 yards, unbelievable year last year, got MVP votes despite missing the playoffs, so he was rewarded for it. But it wasn't shocking to me he got hurt. It was sad. It makes you worried about him. But sometimes you have to protect yourself in different ways. And the reason I mentioned Big Ben is in the pocket, Colin, he plays a lot like Ben did, which is there might be people at my feet. I'm staying there. I'm going to shake you off. But Big Ben was called Big Ben because he was 6'5.5", huge and impossible to bring down. Burrow playing this style is just risky. Yeah. And it feels almost like victim blamey, but your point is correct. If you're Joe Burrow, if I get hurt, the team is absolutely ruined. If we don't hit this 3rd and 8, we can recover from it. And it's a shame that this is where I'll leave it, Colin. He is likely going to hold a record that no one else will ever come close to and that no one else wants, which is next year, he likely becomes the NFL's first ever 3-time comeback player of the year winner. And you don't want that. And it's a shame for Joe because he's such a great player.
Yeah, he's like a $10 million chandelier in an empty mansion. They have no run game, so he's always throwing on 3rd and long. They don't protect him. They don't spend money on defense, so he's only able to win shootouts. Mahomes can win low-scoring games. I mean, they're tied with the Eagles 10-10 at half. But there is something to be said about, and I'm not saying maybe it's 80-20 on the Bengals, but when guys keep getting hurt over and over, All right, Nick.
And I'm going to give your producers one other job real quick. You just said $10 million chandelier. There's a great meme that describes that. It's a Lamborghini parked in front of a trap house. Throw that on the screen for Colin at some point. He'll like it because that's what the Bengals built. Burrow, Chase, Higgins is as nice of a trio as you get. Everything else has, leaky faucets and cracked foundations. It's no good. Good to see you, brother.
All right, Nick Wright, great stuff.